A wise YouTuber that I look up to once said, "If you cannot find the video that you are looking for, then you should make it because it's guaranteed somebody else is looking too." I'm making the video I wish I could find, so that hopefully it helps the mechanical gearheads like myself out there. Alright, let's talk about the fear that everybody has with this setup, which is why I've got this clicker here. Now, the fear everybody has is that I open up this tank, I can't get it started, something happens, I come back to this, and this has just been dumping tons of propane into this, and all of a sudden it goes kablooey, and I burn off all my eyebrows. Well, at this point, we've had this on the entire time we've been talking. This has been purged already. So if that was the case, then what would happen if I went like this? Oh, poof. A little teeny tiny poof. That's what came out of it after all of the talking we just did. Now, the one thing I will show you is that if I was to have this, see, there's no poof. It doesn't seem to set it off at all. But if somebody happens to hit the purge button, then it definitely does. Here we go. So we got the big giant barb right there for the propane. And let's see, we've got a box of stuff left over from doing a VM22 carb. So let's take a look at these. So from this side, yep, exactly the same carburetor. Well, almost. Why is that one a different metal on the inside? Interesting. So on the side here, we've got our idle control screw, we've got our idle jet. By the way, on NR Racing, you can order up the jets for doing these on these DuroMaxes. We've got our propane inlet. Now, as you can see, the carb is actually casted deliberately for that propane inlet. So that's different. And on the front here, let's get the choke closed. Come here. Come on. There we go. So those look exactly the same. There's nothing going on there that I can see. And if we get the choke open, we can see down through inside. Whoops, let's get this open. There we go. Now I can see down through the inside. And that looks exactly the same. So they redid the casting to add that barb. Now the question is that a check valve of some sort? Which I can't seem to shine anything in there through it, but you definitely can see it starting to come through the casting right there. Well, I think what we'll do is the good old-fashioned brake cleaner thing. I think we'll shoot a little bit in there and see if it comes through on the inside. Alright, we grab some non-chlorinated. That way if there is some sort of gasket on the inside of there, in theory we shouldn't manage to garble it too bad. And let's see if it's a pass-through or not here. Oh! Well, I guess that answers that question. It is. It's a direct pass-through right there, and that is huge. That actually went right straight into it. Here, let me grab that. Yep, that is a giant pass-through. I was not expecting that. So yeah, when you open up that can, you are pumping propane right directly into there with no ifs, ands, or buts. Well, actually, I'm not sure. Well, let's see if we turn this on, if we hear direct flowing, or whether this has some sort of diaphragm that gets triggered. There's no pressure. It's open, right? If I punch this. Yep. So that's got some sort of diaphragm in it that must trigger when it actually feels it in the carb. I wonder if I suck on that, if all of a sudden it'll put propane out. This is a bad idea. Yep, that's what it is. When there's a low pressure. Oh, and now I'm going to have a helium voice. Okay, so that's what it is. When there's a low pressure, this releases and it ends up letting out propane. Well, on that note, I'm going to go find some fresh air. But that's interesting to know, the safety side of the fact that that won't trigger without a low pressure. But we'll turn this off anyway. Now I'm going to go take a walk and get some fresh air. Well, I figure we should try one more experiment and then call it a video. So, out of curiosity, we open this up and we hold this at full throttle. What's the chances I can set it off? Oh, I got it a little bit. Did you see that? Yeah, I mean, it's really safe. I mean, the amount of vacuum pressure going across that it takes to actually set it off is pretty significant. I would imagine even with holding the purge, it probably wouldn't be that much. Whoa! Okay, maybe the purge is quite a bit. Alright, with that being said, I'm really hoping that DuroMax will actually sell this as a kit individually. I think that would be absolutely amazing to have a conversion kit like this. Because let's be honest, the rest of this engine is really basically generic. It's just a standard setup, I'm betting, internally. But we're going to break into it a little bit later and find out. Now, what I do think we should do is grab a 1-pound canister, grab a refill kit, an adapter, and throw this carburetor onto John's go-kart build. That way we can find out exactly what kind of runtime we're going to get per 1 pound. We will use a standard store-bought 1-pound canister to try it with, and then in the future we'll do refills on it. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. We'll be opening up the other engine pretty soon. Choke. Rabbit. Now, we've managed to simulate the idea that we ran low on gas. And that we're almost out of gas and we want to switch over to our propane. We're going to make sure this gas is off. I'm going to set the choke in the on position. Going to have it on rabbit. We're going to open our propane tank. Purge this for the count of 3 locomotive. 1 locomotive, 2 locomotive, 3 locomotive. Right now, if you were closer, you could literally hear that it was making a hissing sound inside this carburetor. At this point, we should be able to start the unit. Let's turn the choke off. Now, I've run into this issue before on the 7 horsepower DuroMaxes where the throttle response on them can cause this restrictive carb assembly to have some quibbles. Right now, let's see if it'll restart just as it is, just for the curiosity of it. Alright, now, let's say that I managed to go and get some gasoline. I want to start this back up. So we're going to close off our propane tank here. We're going to open up our gas valve. And at this point, we should be able to start it back up on good old petrol. Wanted to give big kudos to DuroMax, because during one of our meetings I discussed the fact that I really hoped that they would add a lot more information to their instructions, including these, much easier to read, but most importantly this, the electronics diagram that clearly states what everything is. Really happy to see that. The other thing is, they have changed the user's manual to be stupid-proof. I love it. Pictures, easy to read, diagrams, awesome changes. Very good work.